very happy to have you with us today, Viktor Blinov. We're very happy that we have such a good psychologist at Lifekeys in Ukraine. So we wanted to have a talk with you today. So thank you for having a talk with us.
You're welcome. I hope I will be able to answer your question and maybe to somehow it will be helpful for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm
interesting, simply.
yeah. So Victor, tell us a little bit about yourself. We, of course, in Lifekeys, we know you well, but you are a clinical psychologist and you have been working in Ukraine for some time. So, and you have also experience with trauma and war. Can you tell people a little bit about your background?
Well, yes, I'm a psychologist. I'm clinical psychologist. I started my career working with children mostly, within different categories of like orphans, children without parental care, and then since I guess 2015, I joined Doctors Without Borders in the eastern Ukraine, and I worked there in the conflict zone. And then in 2016, I joined the ICRC, the International Committee of the Red Cross, as a psychologist, working also in the eastern Ukraine with the affected population in different programs. And till 2018, after that, I worked in Kyiv with the refugees and also with ICRC, one of the ICRC program, which was focused on the families of the missing during the
Mm,
conflict in Ukraine.
yeah.
And since October last year, I work as a psychosocial safety trainer
Mm.
for journalists and media and social activists.
I see. I see. So Victor, the casualties of war and injuries is of course known to most people, and understandably it's most focused on the physical injuries, but the large side effects of war are also mental health. So can you walk through us the typical mental health consequences of war? So
Well,
of course, there are of course many, but based on your experience and the situation you're in now, so what would be the most largest or known factors there?
first of all, of course, it's acute stress reactions uh, and trauma and PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I think that these are the main like domains.
Hmm.
And like talking with our colleagues, I think we have to separate these domains because there are, for instance, people affected by the conflict in different levels, I would say. So currently now in Ukraine, we have people affected directly who are now exposed, who are in the like in the areas that are targeted by the missiles and the shelling and the aircraft bombing. So they are physically not safe. Plus, I would say there is another category who are physically unsafe, who moved to the more safer region or even abroad. But
Hmm.
still, we cannot say that they are not under stress now. But still, it's another kind of another type, I would say, of the reactions. And of
Yeah.
course, if we talk about the first category who are directly exposed, so this in this case we can say about not we don't I would prefer not talk about the trauma talking, but rather about the acute stress reactions that are need to be addressed by the kind of the first psychological aid, first response. Um,
Yeah.
it's not like the counseling or psychotherapy. It's like, the
Mm.
first kind of assistance, first like psychological first aid.
Yeah.
That when you helping people, for instance, in the bomb shelter, when they are like experiencing all the physical symptoms of stress and emotional reactions that are affected.
Yeah.
And this is what required. Actually, you cannot start the psychotherapy with the people
No.
who are
So,
uh,
it's a very good differentiation which you makes there, and I think it's often just helpful to talk about it, and that, and in the first category, as you mentioned, acute stress, it's fully natural, it's fully normal to have an acute stress reaction, and especially if you are in a direct exposure, in a direct danger. So and for people listening in who are not maybe aware of what are those acute stress reactions. So can you walk us through that? What is acute stress reactions? What are acute stress reactions which people are experienced when they are in direct exposure?
well, there can be different symptoms, but the most common is kind of uh, what comes to my mind. It's like shock reactions. It's trembling. They're losing the focus. They are um, how to say in English, sorry, forgot the most those common signs. uh, they're emotionally affected. They feel like, how to say, they can be scared. The most, I think, the crucial thing is to say with among all those symptoms is that they losing the control. They
Mm,
cannot control their behavior. They cannot control what is happening to them. So there can be a range of different symptoms, but the main point, if when we address those symptoms, is to uh, to get people, back this simple, at least in a little bit of self-control, of self-regulation. So those are
mm.
techniques that are commonly used and very well known by the people, such as grounding or breathe techniques, or um, like
To help people regain control of their body and reaction, so they feel better. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, by direct instructions. It can be direct instructions. Why I separate these approaches for in a crisis interventions? They are not like, the psychotherapy or counseling. You can be really using this direct approach, saying, like, for the people, if you want a water, you can take the water. Take my hand, or do that, or like, what is your name? Tell me your name. So this is kind of, how to say, tools that you can use working with
Yeah.
people that are affected.
Very, very good things which you're walking us through, Victor. So, and there is a differentiation here with people who are experiencing these reactions when they're in a place without their loved ones, and also people who happen to be in direct exposure, but they have loved ones as well. So, children or parents and brothers and sisters and family, so they are most likely they are having stronger reactions than others because it's not only them which they worry about, but also the loved ones.
Yes, it's true. But we cannot assist anyone or help anyone if we are not able to cope with those reactions by ourselves. So this is
No.
actually the responsibility of those first responders. I mean, they are also exposed. Even the responders, the psychologists or whomever work in the field, they are also exposed. They also experience the same acute reactions, but their advantage is that they know how to cope with this a bit faster, I would say.
Mm.
So
I
they
see.
already have the experience of coping with this,
Mm.
and then they like this is the idea is that when we have this experience of overcoming this, we can be help, we can be of
Mm.
help. Once
Good, good.
we gain this experience, this what actually gives us this opportunity to help others. So
I see.
my idea is to, if you want to help the closest one, you first need to learn how to cope with your own reactions, and
Mhm.
then you can turn on your mind and think how to talk to with the children, how to talk to your like
Mhm.
close people.
Yeah. A little bit same then as in play as they tell in plane when you're boarding a plane. In case of emergency, you should put the mask on yourself first. It maybe feels selfish, but you won't be able to help a child or someone next to you if you don't get oxygen yourself.
Exactly, this is the perfect example of the
Yeah.
idea.
Oh, okay. And we talked about acute stress reactions, as you mentioned, which are normal, they are natural, and understandable that people have those. And but then we went on talked about long-term consequences of trauma and PTSD. And of course, the best intervention is, of course, to stop the war. So there are less likely negative consequences on the mental health in the long run. But can you walk us a little bit through about trauma and PTSD as a consequences of war?
Yes,
I
yes.
know it's a big topic, and it is of course not simple to go over it all in a smaller talk. But for people listening in who are not aware of the the research field in those categories, what would you say are the largest components here?
Well, yes, I would try to to share maybe some ideas that can really helpful to understand maybe the approach. Of course, as you very well mentioned, those acute reactions are normal. So the most of the people they already have this capacity to overcome it, and we are actually doing this on the daily basis. Like I would say 80% have capacities to deal with this. Even the PTSD doesn't mean that you are not overcoming stress. This is
Mm,
also kind of it's like a grief. Grief is a normal process. We don't want to make it clinical. This
mm,
is so this is the stress is a normal process. So you have to find a way how are you actually coping with stress, because you have already been doing this. So when you know your strengths, your strong points, what is really helpful for you, plus you know this techniques of self-regulation, that gives you a bit of control of what's happening to you.
mhm,
So the main idea of working with the trauma, like this post-trauma work, is regaining the control. Because at a certain moment, the trauma is kind of taking over your mind and control it, and saying you don't do this, the trauma is trying to kind of taking over your life in order to avoid this experience again, the repetition
mhm,
of this experience. But while learning yourself, your reactions and your feelings, you kind of regain this control back, and then it's you who control your life and not the trauma.
mhm,
So I would say, and normally, and we know this from the book saying that there is a like terms for the PTSD symptoms, and there is also the period after which the symptoms disappear, and it's normal period like 1 month, half a year. So there is already it's settled. So and here is important to remember that there can be, the the negative consequences. If we are, for instance, taking, the negative coping mechanism, for instance, a substance abuse or alcohol, then of course we will deal later with another consequences. So, but however, it's also, the way of coping. So it's always important to keep it in mind. So, but the idea is that we all have these capacities. And I would say that the best approach is not focusing, on those clinical kind of symptoms of trauma, but rather on the strong points. So looking for where we are strong, where is our strong part, and
resiliency as a focus.
Exactly, yes, and this will be much helpful to deal with our weak part.
Yeah,
But
I think that's
learning.
I think this is a very good reminder which you give us in this context as well, that it is that, of course, to recognize the trauma and horrible experience which people have had, but not with you overusing clinical terms or misunderstanding them. Then people might think that someone is damaged for good, or something went really wrong and it's not going to be fixed after a traumatic experience. But we're not saying that. We're saying that people can get over it, or even though the experience is horrible and they might have PTSD for some time, but that might also be a normal reaction for many.
Yes, and another point that I think is very important, that the people are very often they think that, okay, I learned about the stress, I learned about the trauma, I learned some self-regulation techniques, so when I will be in stress, I'm going to use it. That doesn't work like that. If you it's better, to use those to practice this in a daily life. Even if you're not in stress, just practice some breathing, or grounding, or just make it as a habit. And then when you will be in the stressful circumstances, environment, your body, your mind will automatically trigger those self-regulation. And the people, when they have this traumatic experience, and as I said, that the trauma is taking over the control, I think it's very important to know that, well, from my experience being as a trainer of psychosocial safety, the people are usually, their request is, tell me what to do, and tell me what I have to learn or what I have to do to avoid any kind of stress or any kind of reactions. So they are kind of seeking for this magic stick that will help them to avoid these situations. But in fact,
as you say.
Exactly, but this is, the trauma logic, that we want to avoid this experience. So if we cannot even imagine that something could happen to us, can we say that we are prepared? So it's always very important to change this kind of mindset to what I will be doing when this happens.
I see. So I'm trying to imagine. It's very easy to sit here in Norway and trying to understand what people are going through, but that's impossible because I'm not in Ukraine. You are. So can you share a little bit, like your own reactions, after this started, and how have you been doing, Victor?
Well, I have been doing with this since 2014 when it first started. So this is not something new for us in Ukraine as well. But it seems that in 2014 it was kind of, a test. How do you call it? Pilot version of that. And of course now it's much more in a larger scale. But yeah, I'm Actually, it has started before. We have these kind of talks and news about the preparedness for the invasion since last year, October last year. So nobody, and there were many, like, there was there a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty is also the one of the cause of the stress, and very powerful stress, I would say, because
Mhm.
you cannot do anything with uncertainty. Okay, you might even say, okay, I believe there will be no invasion, but then during the night you wake up and think, what if it will be? Or
Mhm.
the vice versa. So you have this, how do you call it? You can fall from one extreme point to another. So you cannot deal with this. So the only way you can cope with uncertainty is to learn how to live with this, and
Mhm.
to be prepared, of course, and not only you know psychologically but also physically prepared, having the emergency bag, having the emergency plan, and all of that.
Yeah.
So I had it.
So you practiced a little bit what you're also preaching, and know that you try to focus on things which you could control. And can you tell us a little bit more about things which you've done or do uh, to try to cope with this as best as you can? Do you have some routines? Do you are you do you have certain routines at home or during the day which gives you a sense of control or perspective, or what is it that you do to cope, Victor?
Well, it's some specialists, some psychologists, they said that we have kind of the channels, for instance, the physical channel or the cognitive channel, that actually, and for instance, I mean, the kind of types. For instance, if you're body type person, then you do the physical exercises, or and it helps you. Or if
Mhm.
it's cognitive, that you're doing something like kind of boosting your cognitive activities, and it also can be helpful for you. But and it's important to know your type, to be able to find something for you. But for me, works different things. First of all, it's learning. You start learning about yourself, you start reading, it's well, professional learning. It's always
Mhm.
helpful. And as you very well said, I was trying to trying to think, okay, what I can do. So, and I did some preparations, so I know when it happens. So this is my emergency plan, what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
And of course, you cannot predict anything, but still, you already have something in mind.
Yeah.
But really, what I want also to mention, and maybe in my case, or maybe in case of other people, it's the moment when you feel that you need to do something. You feel the drive. You have to do something. You have to run somewhere. You want to be somehow inactive, because to avoid this feeling of helplessness, because the
Mhm.
feeling of helplessness is the most, I would say, dangerous. Because
Mhm.
when you feel helplessness, the next step, you will be depressed. You will fall into depression. This is why
Yeah.
it's
People helplessness that people feel no matter what they do, they can't change or have any say in their own situations.
yes, and it's very important to find what you really can do. And
Mm.
if you like study all the opportunities, and then really it's time for you to, okay, wait for something, then learn how to wait.
Mhm.
Then you have to understand that, okay, this is the time that I need to lie on the sofa and wait, or to think of something. And people, they are also always trying to avoid those negative thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
or negative feelings, but instead of, you know, learning about it, they are suppressing it, and it's not helpful. If and I'm talking about the feeling, the sadness, and also the helplessness and the anger and everything. But it's
Mm-hmm.
worse to, you know, to gain this tolerance to those feelings because you cannot avoid it. In such
Mm.
circumstances, you will feel anger, you will be depressed, you will feel helplessness. So
Yeah.
you cannot avoid it, but the only way you can deal with it is, you know, I have this phrase in mind that let something affects you, and then you give the opportunity to these feelings to flow through you. You learn about you. You have the opportunity to learn about it more,
Mm-hmm.
and you are kind of increasing your tolerance. At a certain moment, you can say, "Okay, I'm angry. I feel anger." So this reflection appears, and this is the crucial moment about everything. I would say even the techniques and everything, because this is the what we call self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think increasing the self-awareness is it's the practice that is really helpful in any circumstances. It's the ground, it's the base for everything. Because if you don't have this a piece of self-awareness, you will not even go to the therapist after, or you will not approach help, because
I
when
see.
someone is coming to the psychotherapist, it's already there is already work has been done before that, work
Yeah,
on the
with
self.
being aware, as you mentioned, and you meant as we were talked about, people have different coping mechanism. You were aware what you need, that you have more cognitive approach. You use it for learning, or you keep yourself stimulated. You keep yourself educated, and that is one of the largest part of your coping mechanisms.
Yeah, this is one part I would say, but also I use very
Mhm.
other things, simple things like also physical exercises or computer games,
Yeah. Mhm.
because this is
I
the moment
remember.
when you
Yeah. What games are you playing?
ah different RPGs and strategies.
I see. When last time we talked, Victor, I was pretty amazed by uh, one angle, or gracious thoughts which you had when you talked a little bit about how you also thought about uh, Russians who have consequences both in life and mental health, whether it was Russian children and other that you thought you mentioned and talked about about the consequences for Russian people and Ukraine people, uh, that you thought about. Has these thinking which you had, has that helped you to be less angry, or thinking differently, you think about the war?
Not this time.
It's
This
different this
time
time.
it's much different this time. Maybe I'm not in that level yet.
No, because it has changed, because the conflict has escalated, and then you are a Ukrainian, and that type of perspective has changed.
Exactly. Yes. And as you said that I'm a Ukrainian, and now we are targeted exactly in this point as
Mhm.
the Ukrainians.
Yeah,
It's another level
yeah.
of conflict. So
I think I think that's I'm very happy that you're so honest as well about your own thoughts and reflections, and because people are not you're not only a professional, but you're also a national, you're also a person, and then and then this side has changed, and it would have been much easier for you to say that it hasn't, but it has. So thank you for sharing that.
I think it's
And I think
I just wanted to say that sometimes, we are, as a specialist, we are kind of expected to be neutral and all of that. But I think that as a specialist, we have to be in the reality. And sometimes reality is not that nice.
I think that's a good point, and I'm just trying to imagine myself. I'm living here in Norway, but I'm from Iceland, and I would just envision how would I as a person feel that if I would be in the same situation. Yes, I would know the professional things about reaction and all this, and how would I feel as a person if my country would have been invaded and the conflict would be escalated. So I think that is a good reminder.
And
Where
also
are
the
you
level.
now? Sorry?
Yeah, just wanted to mention that the level of violence and it's much higher than in 2014. You know that there are maternity clinics bombed, the schools bombed. Like we have civilians died more than even militaries. So this is not a war. This is a crime.
That is horrible, Victor, and I think most of the people who have access to news and information are very shocked, and I know many people are think very much every day about the Ukrainian people and all people who are suffering from this war.
Yes, and I feel and I share and feel this gratitude to the people abroad, from country allies and the other people who support Ukrainians, and just for you to know that it's really very important. And
Yeah.
also contribute that we are not alone, that we are supported.
Yeah,
So
that's
thank you
good.
for
And
that.
of course, it is of heart. As we attended before we talked, we were not gonna go into politics, but as you say, this is the reality, and the focus is not politics, but there are level of this consequence of the war, which forces us to think about it as well, and as you mentioned, yes, there are countries who have sympathy, but perhaps as well, you and others might have thoughts that you're not being helped enough by your neighbors. Have you had that? Have you had that thought about, like, for example, the Scandinavian countries that yes, they are supporting, but have you received enough help? Has that had a has that
Yeah,
thought?
I see your point. No, I don't have such thoughts. I knew that since 2014 that this is our Ukrainian, how to say, struggle, and we have at a certain moment we have to pass this way by ourselves.
Mhm.
Of course, we welcome any kind of help and support, and you might hear our politician and the president who are demanding, I would say, this support from the other countries. But this is his role, but this
Mhm.
is what he's doing in his position, and for the people, probably, I hope so. For and But I mean, in general, in people, we are here in our land and we're protecting our land. We are happy if we are supported, but uh, we I would say don't even have time on that thoughts that someone is not helping enough. That might comes from the people who are abroad, thinking
Yeah.
that Ukraine is not supported enough. But people who
Mhm.
are currently here,
Yeah.
they are actually pretty much occupied by very basic things: where to find food, where to find medicines, where to find
Mhm.
water and everything. So
Yeah.
I'm in Kyiv now, and to have enough food. You need to spend like 2 hours in line, and you see that the shelves are empty in the stores. So, well, it's possible, but it's not that easy as before. So basic things not the priority.
That is, I think, a very good reflections from you, Viktor, and good thoughts you have on that one. I think it's been great to talk to you, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and feelings, and a little bit tapping into the relevant topics also regarding to the mental health and those areas. So it was great to talk to you, Viktor, and as of course you know that we are extremely proud to have you here in Lifekeys, and we think about you, and I hope you and your family will be very, very safe, and no one will be harmed.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity. For me, it was nice, to have this also reflections to share, because we are here mostly people. When I share with someone here, we are in the same situation, and it's good to have someone who are somehow from another side, like from standing aside, and can see all that. So thank you, and I hope I will be more useful for Lifekeys as a specialist in the future, and after
You
we
are
win.
you are very useful for us. So please don't worry about that. But I think it was a great talk, and this was not a scripted talk. There were just two persons talking about things which we wanted to convey to other people, and look into mental health aspects of the war. And I think that this went very well, and I wish you all the best, and I will talk soon again.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.